Thanks for joining, everyone. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. There's people still logging in. Okay. I'll give it, not everyone signed up or joined yet that we know signed up. So I'll give it, what time is it? I'll give it till 9:05 and then we'll have them join late if they're still coming. Okay, well, I don't see anyone else trying to come in, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And let's see here. So my name is Tanya Perkins. I'm a senior client advisor with Arizona MEP, and today our webinar is on QuickBooks for manufacturers. We're going to show you some tips and tricks to streamline your operations. I wanted to first open the webinar with an introduction of the MEP. Our mission is to make every Arizona manufacturer the most successful business it can be. These are the advisors, as well as we have a support team that unfortunately their pictures aren't shown, but Val and Sarah also support our team. Next slide. What happened here? Sorry. Okay. So the way that we're structured, the NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is a government agency under U.S. Department of Commerce, oversees our program. Underneath them, every state has the opportunity to apply for the grant. This state, it's Arizona Commerce Authority that holds the grant. And then we, of course, are within Arizona Commerce Authority, and the title of our group is Arizona Manufacturing Extension Partnership. And that's what we call the AZMEP for short. So again, it's a national network, one in every state. This map will show you how it's structured in other states. Some are private entities like California, CMTC. Others are related to the university like Purdue in Indiana. So it just depends on how it's structured. And then of course in Arizona, we're tied to the business development for the state. So what happens is the network identifies how we're doing based on some surveys, and the surveys are a part of an agreement that clients make to work with us. So if we do a project with a client, they agree to record those impacts on a survey, and then they roll up, and here's the results. This is the national survey results. So this is the updated fiscal year 2020. Over 105,000 jobs were created or retained. Cost savings in the billions, 2.7. New and retained sales also 13.0 billion. And then new client investments, 4.9 billion. So as a national network, we're doing huge things. And within Arizona, we also pride ourselves. We fall in line with, these similar challenges reported by the clients. That's what we're seeing as well in Arizona. I would say the 65% cost reduction across the board. I would say Arizona, ours is probably in line with that, but I don't know for sure, but I would think employee recruitment was our top challenge in this state. But in the national network, it's 54%. And then the challenges with growing the company, 51%, as well as the new product development, 42%. So this is what the feedback on the surveys is saying are the biggest challenges for the manufacturers. The Net Promoter Score on a national level is 84.3, which means 84.3% of the manufacturers surveyed would recommend our services to a colleague. In Arizona, I can tell you that score is over 90%. So we pride ourselves on the fact that what we're doing is bringing value enough to our manufacturers that they're recommending us to their colleagues or friends or other businesses. What do? Well, we do basically anything and everything to support your business. We have a list of offerings on the operational side to include continuous improvement, which on our staff, we have a full-time continuous improvement professional that will come out and identify some opportunities within your facility. As I mentioned before, staffing is a big one. So if you are having challenges with that, we have multiple ways that we've come up with trying to overcome the staffing challenges that we're seeing, as well as we have resources to provide the quality certifications. They get you ready for your certification. They also do audits, preliminary audits, to make sure that everything's in line when you're ready to, actually go to get certified. And the list goes on and on. We just had a webinar last week on shipping services and how we can save, cost savings in that area. So yeah, there's the list is endless on the ways that we're helping our manufacturers. On the business side, we just try to bring things to the manufacturers that they're not aware of. And a big one is R&D tax credit. We do webinars. We have advisors that come specifically to talk to businesses or their CFOs or their CPAs to help them maximize the R&D tax credit. We also want to make sure every manufacturer understands they're exempt from their utility tax for state and county. And so we make sure that they're not paying that tax. And if they are, we project manage a 4-year refund and removing the tax moving forward. So you can go back 4 years and get that money that you paid in. Here you see the HR support, P&L, cash flow. We have financial assistance, CFO services. I mean, export tech. Like I said, whatever it is that you might need help with, we have the resources that we can, what we do is we bring you guys together. We bring the client together with our third-party resource, and we project manage whatever it is that you are looking to do. There is it's emergency assistance program out right now that basically the services that I just mentioned, the program will help you subsidize the cost to do those services. So if there's something on the list that you saw that you've been wanting to do, I would highly encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity to use these subsidy funds. The way to do that is to apply on our website. There is a section for Arizona MEP Emergency Assistance Program, and our website is azmep.org. There's our phone number as well, if in case you haven't been reached out to by one of our advisors and you would like to know who your advisor is and start working with us. As far as upcoming events, we do have a couple more webinars in May 12th, May 26th, and June 23rd. But we also have some in-person events coming up as well. And the way to make sure you're up to date on those are monthly events and workshops page on our website. And Sarah is the one that does blast out emails and tries to make you aware of any webinars or events that we have coming up. So I think that's it. Again, our contact information. And now I would like to introduce our speaker. And give me 1 second here, Susan. So Susan Bedell is the co-owner of A-Team Accounting, located in Phoenix. Susan, her husband Bob, and their staff have been serving business owners in the Valley and beyond for over 20 years. She is a member of the QuickBooks Pro Advisor Program and has used all versions of QuickBooks, including desktop, online, and enterprise editions. And with that being said, I would like have Susan now share her presentation, and she will be the host moving forward. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you, Tanya, and welcome everyone. It's good to be with you today and present some information that I think you'll find helpful in terms of using QuickBooks for manufacturers. So I'm going to share my screen, so just bear with me. There we go. And is my slideshow up there okay? Okay, good, thank you. Are you going to stay on, Tanya? Okay.
I'm on, and you just want to put it in slideshow mode.
I will. Okay. So there we go. So if you wouldn't mind monitoring the chat for me, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yes, if anyone has questions as we go along, please feel free to post them in the chat. And then when there's something in there, then we get to a good stopping point, Tanya, if you'll just let me know, then I can take a look at it. So this is, oh, hold on here. This is QuickBooks for Manufacturers, tips and tricks to streamline operations. And this webinar is for users of QuickBooks Premier and Enterprise, the manufacturing and wholesale editions. There are different guidelines for QuickBooks Online. It's a completely different platform, and it's structured much differently, but does the same thing. But for this webinar, we will be focusing on, oh goodness, we'll be focusing on the desktop versions. So just a little overview. Many small businesses that stock inventory don't know the number of units they have on hand or on order at any given time. So using QuickBooks to manage your inventory, you'll be able to, and I'm going to turn off my camera here. Less distraction. You'll be able to know the number of units on hand or on order at any given time. You will be able to track the value of your inventory after every purchase and sale. You'll also be able to have a more accurate picture of your business's inventory assets. And the biggest thing with inventory that I see as a consultant is timing. Timing is everything. So having a good inventory cycle and keeping your team on, focused on keeping things current is the best thing you can do. One of the best things you can do for your inventory. So the inventory cycle in QuickBooks is on the screen. And basically it starts with a purchase order, and QuickBooks has a purchase order system built in. Purchase orders are non-posting, so it's merely a notation in your QuickBooks file. It does not create any accounting entries, no debits or credits, but it does create a purchase order form that you can send to your supplier. QuickBooks does track those purchase orders that are open and closed. And so the purchase order is first step. Next step is the order acknowledgement. That's an external event. And so that will be a document that comes from your supplier acknowledging your order. The next step in the process is an item receipt. And an item receipt is a posting transaction. And the item receipt is something that can be, should be generated from the purchase order. So you actually turn the purchase order into an item receipt. And then the final step is the bill. Sometimes the item receipt and the bill happen at the same time. Sometimes they don't. So QuickBooks has a two-step process in there that will cover either scenario. So you can enter the item receipt first, enter the bill later, or you can enter the item receipt and the bill at the same time. Item receipts may be better, as mentioned, because sometimes AP bills lag behind, and that may affect real-time accuracy. So logging your inventory as it arrives guarantees that your inventory in QuickBooks is real-time. And then logging the bill when you have it is the next step to make sure that your AP is correct and current and stated within your books. So QuickBooks Desktop uses the average cost method to determine the value of inventory. The average cost of an inventory item equals the total of the cost currently in stock divided by the number in stock. And QuickBooks Enterprise Edition with a Platinum subscription, that's an add-on, supports average cost as well as FIFO, which is first in, first out, to determine the value of the inventory. And for any company that wishes to use LIFO, last in, first out, specific landed or other types of inventory costing systems, they're add-ons that are compatible with QuickBooks. There are so many add-ons out there, too many to mention, but QuickBooks is such a strong accounting program that a lot of companies have developed add-ons that will support pretty much any scenario you have. Here is a sample inventory report that is very helpful, has a lot of information. And one of the great things about QuickBooks, this is a slide, so I can't show you how to do this, but I can point you in the direction to make changes to the report. But this is a canned report that comes within the program, and it has all, lots of information in column format across the top there. And if you want to customize, you click on customize, you can add. I don't think there's really any columns to add to this, but you could certainly, if there are certain columns you don't need, you could drop them off. You can also make comments on the report, and obviously printing and PDFing are very handy. But this report gives you an overview of the value of the inventory that's on hand. And again, it's driven by, the information on this report is driven by item receipts, invoices that you have generated to your customers, and if there's any credit memos that you've generated or returns from your customers. All of those transactions roll up into the inventory valuation summary, along with inventory adjustments, which I won't cover in this webinar, but QuickBooks does have the ability to make inventory adjustments along the way if needed. So this is a nice report because it will show you what you have. It'll also show you if there's issues with your inventory, which as a consultant I see quite frequently. Actually was just at a client's yesterday, and we were looking at their inventory report, and there were lots of negative quantities. And so negative quantities obviously are a concern because you have, there's transactions that don't add up, because you should never have negative inventory. It should always, the on-hand number should always be positive. The value should always be positive. And so when we see an inventory report that has negatives, then we know that there's some work that needs to be done to figure out what's going on with the system. Could be item receipts are being entered in incorrectly. Could be that the invoicing process is not, they're not invoicing. Whoever's doing the invoice is not using the correct item. Anyway, so this is a really good report to get the pulse of your inventory and see, what's going on. So QuickBooks divides the report into sections. The first section will always be the inventory items. And so those are, those could be your final product, or they could be inventory parts. And so then you have your assemblies at the bottom. And so the assembly would be one or more, or two or more of these inventory items that are put together as a kit. So in this case, this is a manufacturing company, and they manufacture cabinets, hardware, and doors. So again, this is a really good overview of what the inventory is. It does go through and calculate the average cost. And so that average cost will change based on your purchases. It also gives you your value, which is based on your purchases minus your sales. And then also the sales price and the retail value. So you get an idea of this is what the asset's valued at. This is the average cost. And then this is the retail, this is what we anticipate we're going to sell it for. And so then again, you get percentages and all kinds of helpful information, lots of different uses for this report. This is a report that should be looked at quite frequently to see if there's any issues. So go on to the next one. So in advanced inventory tracking, in Premier, there's no provision for serial numbers, lot numbers, or location tracking. In Enterprise, you can have all these things, but there's a caution here. You can only have serial numbers or lot numbers. You cannot have both. So that's one of the limitations of Enterprise. So here we have, start talking about bill of materials for assemblies. This is the setup screen for an inventory part. And so on this screen, we'll just go through the various areas, but this is how you set up a part. The reorder point, let's see, don't really need to go through everything, but the reorder point is the minimum quantity that should be on hand. And so that's really helpful information so that you can, that helps with the ordering process, the planning process, the production. And there's several different reports that will incorporate the reorder point that will help you, again, with streamline your ordering process and also your production. So again, the reorder point's the minimum quantity that should be on hand. And then you would want to make sure that you fill in all the different posting accounts. That this is also the setup of inventory is one of the things that can be, if it's done correctly, it works, works so well. But if it's done incorrectly, which we see a lot, the cost of goods sold account is super important, because that points, anytime this item is sold, this is what points the dollars into this line item. And then again, the income account is also equally important, because when you sell on sales transactions, when you sell this item, this is where the dollars go. So the setup of inventory items is something that is so important, and you want to make sure that you have someone that's trained properly that's doing this, because if it's not done correctly, your financials will, excuse me, your financials will not be the way you wish them to be, and they may be inaccurate. The biggest thing I see as a consultant does relate to this setup area and the cost of goods sold account. So many times I see the incorrect account or an expense account, or, you know, across the board, just all kinds of errors that are made in the setup process. So you really want to make sure that your setup person is properly trained. And then also the asset account is also important, because this is the field that determines, sorry about that. The asset account, inventory account, determines where the dollars for the inventory you have on hand fall on your financials, and it should be a balance sheet account. And again, over the years, working with various companies, I have seen that the setup part, if it gets messed up, it's just makes a lot of work in the end and in the long run. So highly recommend you have a procedure documented for setting up your inventory parts. This is the setup screen for an inventory assembly, and an assembly is a group of inventory parts. So on the last screen, we looked at the part, and on this screen, we are looking at the assembly. And let's see here. So the bill of materials is in this bottom section, and this is where you tell QuickBooks, for every time I make an interior door kit, for example, I'm going to use this many of these items. So these are our parts. So this is for an interior door, and the bill of materials tells you how many of each thing. And then it also gives you the bill of materials cost, and that's obviously cost per build. And again, on this setup screen, because the GL accounts for the items that you're using in the build have their own setup, the assembly also has their own setup. So you would want to make sure that you're documenting the process for creating an assembly, so that the cost of goods sold account is the correct one is used, and also that the income account and the asset account are all correctly listed on here. Because once the inventory assembly is set up and once it's used, this is what determines where all the transactions fall on your financials, and you want to make sure that it's all accurate. You also have in the inventory part at the bottom a build point, and so you can have a minimum build point and a maximum build point. It also gives you real time how many you have on hand, what's the average cost. Do I have any on PO? Do I have any on sales order? So PO would be for your an order to your vendor. Sales order would be a sales order received from your customer. So this gives you more information about the assembly, just a snapshot as opposed to running a whole report. So it's a very good go-to, if you will, for looking at your assemblies. So QuickBooks handles work in progress very well. And one of the things it does is produces a pending bills report. So the pending bills report provides a quick and handy way, excuse me, to see, what build assembly orders are open and not yet completed in QuickBooks. So a pending build equals work in progress. The pending builds report can be used to do a rough calculation of the value of the work in progress at the end of the month. And so how you would do the work in progress from this report is you would use the quantities, and then you would you could export this to Excel, and then you could add in, and you might actually even be able to do it, I'm not sure, if you can add the column in here that would have the cost, and then you would cost out your bills. So you could cost out your, work in progress at the end of the month. So a very handy report. And then this also can be used for production planning purposes. All right. So now sales orders are a built-in function of QuickBooks. You can use sales orders to streamline operations. In most manufacturing businesses and job shops, there's a time delay from when a customer order is received until the product is actually produced and shipped. The sales order function within QuickBooks will track open orders. So there's two handy reports that will assist with production planning and will make it easy to track open unfulfilled orders and the backlog. So the first one is the open sales order by item. And so this gives you a snapshot view of what sales orders are open. And an open sales order is an order that's been received that has not been converted into an invoice. So this gives you an idea of what the quantity of the original sales order was, how many have been invoiced, and how many are back ordered. So an open sales order is one that has not been completed in full. So it could be like this one, this is a partial. And then the next one down, you have 28 of the deckings were ordered, but none have been invoiced. So now you have a back order of 28 because it's completely open. So this gives you an idea, again, of how many you have quantity invoiced, back ordered, and then also using the math, it does the open balance for the back ordered. So that's a handy report. The next one is open sales orders by customer. So this gives you an idea of by customer what is open, and this is a good report to monitor because if you have preferred customers that that get priority over other ones, then you can keep an eye on their orders and make sure that if a promise has been made to have something out by a certain date, you can monitor the open sales order by customer just to make sure that you're meeting your obligation to your customer, keep your customers happy. So on this next screen, we have the sales order fulfillment worksheet, and this provides a graphical overview of all open sales orders. In the upper right corner, you have the ability to sort the listing of the orders, sales orders, in many different ways. So this one we're looking at by date the sales order was entered. So this tool provides the ability to see at a glance where bottlenecks may be occurring in your order fulfillment system. So, as a company, you would perhaps want to establish a policy that if an order is entered on, let's say, the 18th, and your policy is that orders are shipped within X number of days, then you can be monitoring to make sure that that things are going according to plan and according to what your policy is. And if you come in here and you see things that are outside your acceptable range, then this gives you the information you need to follow up to find out what the problem might be. So this is, again, the sales order fulfillment worksheet. This second section gives you the detail behind the sales order. So you can see all the details, what was ordered, what was invoiced, what was open, and so forth. So, so just a really quick glance to see where how the sales order process is working and what the issues might be. So in terms of allocating materials, QuickBooks provides a soft allocation of inventory by reserving amounts required to fill all sales orders or assemblies. So if you look at this inventory stock status by item report, you can see on the columns listed on sales order, tells you how many of this particular item or assembly are needed for open orders. And then for assemblies, this tells you it's allocating the inventory based on assemblies that are in the works. So you can see that we have, this is again a really handy report, because you can see that we're going to be short on door frames. It shows a negative 215. So this again will point you to planning for production and knowing what's knowing what's needed in terms of getting your team back on track. And then some companies, however, need a hard allocation where the quantity on hand is decreased and items are taken out of stock and allocated specifically to an order or build. QuickBooks does not have this ability, but there are add-ons that will support this, that will support a hard allocation. So just keep in mind that QuickBooks provides a soft allocation, but nonetheless, it does give you, this report gives you a really good overview of each item, the number on hand, again, the number on sales order, the number for assemblies, the number available, and then it does the math across for you. So it takes the on hand and subtracts the on sales order, subtracts the for assemblies, and then gives you what's available after all this, after all these processes were to be completed. And then it also has a handy order column. So this again is based on your reorder point. And so that's over here in the third column. So the order column will populate with a check mark to show you that the reorder point has been met, or you're definitely needing to order if your reorder point's 15 and you're available 0. So that's what it's telling you. And then it also will indicate how many units are on PO. And again, a PO is not a pending transaction, it's an informational transaction, but POs are especially in manufacturing, the value of POs cannot be understated, because it drives a lot of informational reports that will help you with your operations and planning. And then also we have reorder quantities, the next delivery, and then sales for the week. So this is another really good snapshot report that will help you know what's going on with your inventory and also with your purchasing. So one of the things that QuickBooks does really well is it has a built-in class feature. And classes are something that you can use for a department, a region, or a division. And keep in mind that the class feature is for one purpose, not for multiple. So when you decide to use the class feature, you need to pick what you wish to have tracked, and then build things around that in terms of transactions in your chart of accounts. So on this example, we have the profit and loss by class, and the company has decided that it wants to know that it has these departments. It has new construction, it has remodel, and then overhead. Oh, goodness. It has overhead. And so in terms of direct costs and revenue, it's splitting everything between these two categories. And there's really no limit to the number of classes you can have. And then anything that is overhead would just be allocated to the overhead class. The other thing that QuickBooks does is it has on the class reports, it has what's called the unclassified column. And that's basically anything that has not been allocated to a class automatically defaults to unclassified. And this is a really good built-in thing for for the QuickBooks reporting function, because you would want to click on anything that's in the unclassified and then assign it to a class, because it should, if you're going to use the class function properly, they should be within your defined classes or your overhead class, and you should never have anything that's unclassified. Otherwise, looking at your P&L by class is not really going to be helpful. The other thing that you can have within classes would be subclasses. So for example, you could, under new construction, you could potentially, for example, you could have new construction, and then you could break it down by territory. You could break it down by salesperson, or possibly even referral source, so that you know of your new construction for this company, for their new construction income, what percentage did we get from which source? And then same thing for remodel. You could have different subclasses within that. You could also have, if you want to get fancy, you could also have subclasses within your overhead, if you wanted. But you know, the subclasses really are, it breaks down the dollars in the department even further, so it gives you more detail. And I believe I'm at the end of my webinar. We kind of flew through it, excuse me, pretty quickly. I'll look and see if there's someone in the chat. Okay, so that is not for me. So I will open it up for questions. If anyone has some questions, please feel free to post. I'm happy to stay for a bit longer to go through your questions, answer them, or whatever. I appreciate the time to present these tips and tricks for QuickBooks inventory for manufacturers, and I'm super grateful to the Commerce Authority for giving me the opportunity. And Tanya, if you're there, let's see.
Hi, Susan. I am here. I've been monitoring. If you do have questions, go ahead and put, we're watching the Q&A or the chat, so either one. And if there was something in the previous slides that you had a question on, we can just back up and, you know, go through that if you need to. But
yeah, it went a lot quicker than I thought it would. I was planning for some questions, but happy to take any if there are some.
I think this was a high level overview of QuickBooks, but also gives you the idea that if you need an expert to come in and help customize your particular situation, then you would just reach out to your advisor with the AZMEP, and we would arrange Susan to come in to your business one-on-one. And I think that that's probably going to be the most beneficial situation. Webinars are hard because you're just kind of doing an overview. So for all the specific questions, I would say reach out and we can arrange a project for you. Do you mind stop sharing so I can share mine again?
Sure.
Just to wrap it up.
Yep, you betcha.
Okay.
Let's see. How do I do that? Let's see. Do share now. There we go.
Okay. I just wanted to refer back to my opening. Let me just go back to our events coming up. And I just wanted to show you again our upcoming webinars, but also let you know the June 23rd event is actually in person at our facility in downtown Phoenix, and we will be practicing social distancing in order to make that a safe event. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And again, we can go ahead and just give you back the precious time in your day. And thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you.
Have a good,
Have a good one.
Thanks, Susan, and
Thank
goodbye,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.